Hello, everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we are going to be talking about the 2007 Sam Raimi movie, Spider-Man 3.
That's right, the best of the bunch. And as usual, we are joined by Bex Luthor.
I'm here. I've got my side. You can't see because it's audio only because I didn't want to be on camera. But I got my side sweep. I got my emo clothes on.
Nice.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I should have worn my all-black suit, really. I don't know what
Your
I was thinking.
eyeliner.
I just finished accidentally backhanding my girlfriend, so I'm ready to review Spider-Man 3 too. All right.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This is a very
As we all know,
special
it's Spider-Cast,
episode.
the most feminist Spider-Man podcast around.
So this is a very special episode, and to celebrate, we have a very, very special guest, the host of the Dan MacDonald Show, none other than Dan MacDonald himself. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Wouldn't it be weird if it was somebody else who
Yeah, I
hosted
was
the
gonna
Dan
say.
MacDonald
It would
show?
be very bizarre, yes.
Thanks for having me, though. I'm really, really happy to be here. This is great. I love this.
Right. Listeners out there should know, next week will be our final episode, so we're really glad that we got you on. And we know that you're passionate about movies. I attended a couple of screenings at WIF this year. Can you tell us how many movies you ended up seeing at WIF?
Well, I was on track to see 66 films. I ended up seeing 62.
Why are you such a
Wow.
slacker?
I know. I was averaging 6 films a day. It was 11 days, and then the last 3 days, like I had a concert I had to go to, and then one day I just wasn't feeling. I was hungry, so I missed a film. Then I missed another one, so I ended up being 62 films. So not bad, not too shabby in 11 days.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us, for those out there, can you give us maybe 2 or 3 of your absolute favorites? Maybe something that is less popular that people wouldn't have heard of. That you think
Of films that were at WIF.
Yes.
I really loved a film called Fly Me Away. It was a French film about a rich, spoiled, privileged kid who is kind of like on edge with his dad. The dad's going to disown him, disinherit him, unless he gets his you-know-what together. And he ends up taking on this kid who has health issues and kind of discovers himself and the meaning of life. It sounds cheeseball, but it was really, really good. Another one was called Divide. Divide. And that one was high intensity. It was about it was about a lot of things that we're dealing with today with the pandemic and the divide in society. And it sounds very cliche, but it was extremely well done, very, very powerful. And I couldn't help but be empathetic to both sides of the people on the divide. And I also, one of my favorite ones was Moon Age Daydream, a David Bowie documentary.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. It was almost like a montage. It was narrated by David Bowie, and it was visually stunning, and the music was incredible. And it was actually my second time seeing it, but I had to see it again because the editing almost gave me a panic attack because it was so meticulously edited. It was David Bowie's dream or Moon Age Daydream, I guess you could say.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a great one too. And to be honest, I know a little bit about Bowie, but I learned a lot about his 80s period because I didn't know much about that.
Yeah,
right?
that was
And
really cool.
It was interesting because I knew about Let's Dance and a little bit after that, but I didn't kind of realize he kind of became like a pop star, almost like a commercial, wasn't he doing a commercial with somebody? Like a
Tina
almost like
Turner.
like a Pepsi commercial or something. It was
a Pepsi commercial with Tina Turner, and he was doing the stadium tours and the big budget, and it was a little bit out of what you're used to. It was very mainstream David Bowie, but in a way, I think he kind of dislikes that period musically. But when you look back on it, it was interesting because it did expose him to a whole other new generation. I mean, he did the movie Labyrinth right around then too, and that's how a lot of people, my age, I'm 45, so I would have been 10 when Labyrinth came out, and that film, I didn't know who David Bowie was when I was 10, but I did after that. Then my mother said, it's David Bowie, and then I slowly discovered David Bowie through that film. So really genius move his whole career. Some might call it career suicide, but he kept reinventing himself. And that's why I think he has so much longevity.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say, now, no one's ever made a documentary about us, but I have appeared in the newspaper once, and I wanted to show you guys because I just came across this. Can you see that? That's the first and only time. Yep. That's my old 2008 hairstyle. And this is an article about Comic Book Syndicate that I came across from Wham! Magazine #2, May 2008. And let me tell you, I was riding high reading this article, then I realized I didn't even make the cover. Look who made the cover. It's none other than Dan MacDonald. What a coincidence, eh?
Crazy.
Anyway, I'm not sure if you
Wow.
have this issue, Dan, but it's Wham! Magazine #2 from 2008.
Oh no, yeah, that was when I released a poetry book, I think. Right?
Yeah,
that was a poetry book.
yes,
yeah,
it was. Yeah,
Wine and Cheese. It was called.
there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
That's so
Interesting,
cool.
eh? Fun stuff.
wild.
Anyway, so everything's connected in Windsor, right?
Totally.
Okay, so
Totally.
now we're gonna talk about. This is a classic. I gotta say, we actually reviewed Spider-Man 3 on the Comic Book Syndicate in season 1. That's how far back this goes.
Wow.
And I remember when we saw it, everybody just knee-jerk reaction. Everybody hated it except for me, myself, and George Rizak. We were just like, "What does everyone see that we don't see?" So I'm not going to give a full review right now, but I will say, while I agree that it's extremely disjointed, and some parts of the film feel like they are written and directed by a studio, not written and directed by a human being. Like, they are so cobbled together and forced together. Like, pretty much any scene with Sandman and Venom together, or even with
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Green Goblin fighting, they're just it's a disaster. However, all the scenes of Peter and Mary Jane sitting, talking and arguing and seeing their relationship develop, I thought those were just as good as the scenes in Spider-Man 1 and 2. In fact, not only that, I think that they're better than average in any Marvel Studios film. So overall, obviously the action was all over the place, and the multiple storylines brought it down. But overall, I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought it would going back to it. Dan, why don't you give us your initial reaction to rewatching it?
Sure. Well, I rewatched it, like, especially for this podcast. I had not watched Spider-Man 3 yet. I did see Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Tobey Maguire, back when it was in the movie theaters. What was that, 2002 and 2004? I think those two.
Right.
So, and I have not watched them since. And I thought, well, should I rewatch those just so I get in that zone? I thought, you know what? To give myself a fresh perspective, I'm just going to go by my memory from way back in the day and watch Spider-Man 3 for the first time as is. And it was long, so I thought, oh boy, is this going to overstay its welcome? I didn't think so, all things considering. And superhero films they're not really the movies I immediately gravitate to. I do enjoy them, but they're not my first pick. So I thought, I think it was about 2 hours and 20 minutes or close to. But it flew by for me. That's a really good sign. I agree with what you said. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane was awesome. I love the scenes, like you said, with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. They were phenomenal. I liked the new Goblin that James Franco was. I thought his character was very interesting. Sandman, neat, not realized enough. I kind of thought, was it Marco? What was the character? What was the man who played Marco Flint?
Marco Flint, or Flint, yeah.
I thought he came off as very derpy, and I don't know if it was meant to be that way or not, but I kind of was just like, I didn't really connect with his character, and his storyline, I thought just kind of, okay, he literally dusted away, and I'm like, what about his daughter? What about his wife? They kind of set that up, and they never followed through with it. Venom, I agree with you. I think Venom, like, a cool villain, but it felt very, why is he in here? It was like too much of one and not enough of neither, as Archie Bunker would say. Like, it was neat to see it, but I'm like, there was just no oomph. Like that end scene when they're all fighting, the big face-off is happening. It was like Venom was added in last minute. Like, we got to get Venom in there because Venom looks really cool. And there was no follow. So I enjoyed it. It held my attention. The 2 hours and 20 minutes literally zipped by. But I thought it could have been edited out. Maybe even, and this might be controversial, maybe even they could have just not even had Venom in there. And I don't know if I would have missed it much, and maybe instead build up Sandman, who had potential to be interesting, but really wasn't. And I also thought, I love her to death, Bryce Dallas Howard, her character Gwen Stacy. I thought, okay, they're setting this up to be something big. And then I kind of thought she didn't fully need to be here either. Like, I almost thought, is she going to be the big, the final girl in that big final scene?
Right.
And it ended up being Mary Jane. And I thought, okay, what's the point of Gwen's character again? So I liked it, but I thought it was confused, the plot line a little bit. And I kind of thought the same thing. I'm like, I see a lot of Sam Raimi in this, but I also see a lot of big studio with their fingers in the pie too. And that's where I think it might have got muddled a little bit. That's my fast hot take on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this one. Usually when I kind of do a rewatch, I usually do the first two, and I usually kind of skip over the third one, or while I'm watching it, I'm not like super paying attention. This time watching it, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I was thinking that I was gonna just be completely miserable, and I'm like, okay, wait, this isn't as bad as I remembered. But I think Dan hit the nail on the head with Sandman. I think is maybe the best set up supervillain, and he has like the least payoff.
Right.
Yeah.
Like in any of these movies, you immediately know that he's a bad guy, but you also like immediately have sympathy for him.
Totally.
Like you're on his side from the start. We don't have enough time with him in the movie to kind of see that like back and forth of like, what's he gonna do? What's his plan? Like, what is Sandman's plan? He tries to steal money, I think, for his daughter, but we kind of see him just like escape that like sand power plant and and like fight Spider-Man. Like you know, he's not really in it. I'm not even sure how Venom at the end of the movie would think or would know where to find him to ask him to team up at the end of the movie. Like, it just doesn't make sense that he's there. Venom doesn't have to be in this movie. I think that the symbiote is perfect for this story and with what's happening with Peter and MJ. And I think that's crucial to the plot. And it also really ties in with Harry's story. But Venom really does feel tacked on at the end, kind of like, well, we have the symbiote here, so we've got to have him turn into Venom at some point. He really doesn't have much of a part in this story. Even Eddie Brock is kind of just like there, you know, not really weaved into things. So, while I definitely enjoyed watching it again. I think it is the weakest one of the three, but it had a lot of potential. And I think Thomas Hayden Church is maybe the perfect casting in any three of these movies besides J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Like, he looks and acts the part like perfectly from the comics.
I agree. A perfect casting, you're right.
Yeah.
Bex Luthor, what do you think? Spidey 3.
I did not have as much fun as you guys. Oh man. Dan was saying, he's like, I wonder if I should have watched the first two. It's like, good call not, because you'd finish the second one and then start the third one and be like, oh. And you would do what Josh did and turn it off. So I don't like Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, or James Franco. So this movie was fun.
Yes.
I didn't like it when it came out. I don't like it now. Like most things in the late 90s and early 2000s, Avi Arad ruins everything Spider-Man related. And he's the reason why Venom's in this movie, too. Because they're like, well, we gotta have Venom. People like Venom. No. People don't like Venom. People like Eddie Brock. And Eddie Brock sucks in this movie. So, like, in the comic books, Spider-Man gets the symbiote, and then it's not for years until Venom shows up, which is absolutely the way it should have been done. And I don't like it how it's done in the comics because it's Secret Wars, but we're not going to talk about that. But having Peter get the symbiote, that's totally cool and everything. And then Venom's just like, I'm here, and it's the skinniest, worst looking Venom you've ever seen in your entire life. So, very disappointed as a child going to see this movie. Like a child who loved Spider-Man and read the comics and everything. I was like, oh, cool. Like, it's bad when you come out of a movie and you're like, the coolest villain was Sandman. You know, from the comic books, my favorite character, Sandman. Peter's character is very butchered in this film. There's not enough transition between him being Peter and then him being a dick as Peter Parker and then him being a dick as Peter Parker in this with the symbiote. He's already a dick the entire first half of this movie, so when he becomes even more of a dick, like, they have to have him slap a woman to showcase that he's actually a dick now for sure, because like he's just a dick the first half of this movie. I don't like Mary Jane's character. I think it's too far of a departure from the comic books. I hate that she's so meek and pointless. She nothing, like, she has Peter Parker's characters from the comics. Nothing goes right for her. She struggles. It just doesn't work. And then you have, like, Gwen Stacy, who's a super genius and a model and pretty and cool and dating Eddie Brock.
Yeah, it was really weird. I completely forgot that they made Gwen a supermodel.
Right, I forgot about that too.
Yeah,
they amalgamated Mary Jane into Gwen Stacy, and then Mary Jane was kind of an original character.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we go forward, I just want to ask Dan: are you familiar with the comics at all?
No, I'm not. So okay. I had a total fresh perspective on just the film alone. Yeah, so
go ahead.
No, I was going to say the characters Mary Jane and Gwen, I was kind of didn't really know what to think of either one of them. I liked Kirsten Dunst. I did. I love her all her scenes, Mary Jane and Peter's scenes together. But I just felt like for how long it was, there wasn't enough development, especially with the character when Peter became like Dark Peter. That was kind of really like, oh, what just happened? He kind of wakes up, he's hanging upside down, and all of a sudden he's, oh, this feels great. And that I didn't fully get the transition. I got it, but it seemed, a lot of stuff seemed very, very rushed, and other stuff seemed very drawn out that didn't need to be. But what were you going to ask about the characters? Because I'm not familiar with the comics.
I mean, we can't go over the whole history, but one key thing about Venom was that, or the costume is, Peter Parker discovers the costume. It's actually not a costume. It's an alien symbiote on a planet. Okay, right. In 1985,
he pretty much gets it out of a vending machine on another world.
We're gonna skip over those details, but the important thing is that he comes back from an alien world with this alien costume covering his body. Now, the important thing is that the alien can change its shape to anything. So when he wants to have street clothes, it just becomes street clothes. Right? So he's walking around and it's always on him, and that's how it's able to possess him and control him. Whereas in this film, he takes it off, he puts it on, he takes it off, which makes no sense because how is he turning evil, right? So anyway, in the comics, he figures out that it's through help, that it's an alien, he gets rid of it, and it's gone for a year, then it comes back, then it's gone for 3 years or so. Then when it finally comes back, it possesses Eddie Brock. And this is a storyline, again, stretched out over, 2 or 3 years, we'll say.
Yeah, right.
Now, obviously, the movies don't have to follow that exactly, but I think one of, what's his name, Sam Raimi's original plans was to split the movie in two, which would have made sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
You end this movie with Peter defeating the alien, it disappears, you set up Eddie Brock a little bit, but then in the next movie, Eddie Brock is down and out, and then the symbiote comes back, right? That would have been, I think, a much better movie.
Yeah.
I can even see the ending, like, Peter tearing off the black thing, and then at the end, like, the symbiote kind of jerks or jumps a bit.
Right.
Like, something's coming with that. And then at the end, that would have been would have made way more sense. I didn't know it was supposed to, or the original idea was to have two films, but it really did. That character, for whatever reason, Venom, I really thought cool, but not cool enough for what it could be.
Right.
I knew I was missing something, and I thought maybe it's because I don't know the comics that well. Like that, you did shed some light, but I also thought the same thing with the suit. I'm like, okay, he's wearing this thing like a t-shirt, and he did take it off, and he decided to put it back on. And I thought, why is it all of a sudden so hard to take off? I'm not fully getting this here, but okay, cool, yeah.
Not a fully realized idea. So now I also enjoyed Mary Jane. I personally don't like the idea of her being a model like she is in the comics. I'd rather her be an actress. But I do think it was odd to give that personality and career to Gwen Stacy. That was definitely weird, and I completely forgot about that too.
Yeah. I don't mind the switch up of like careers and stuff like that. I think it actually really works with her being like in plays and musicals and stuff, and it also really lends itself to the storyline that's happening with Peter being like oblivious to everything that's happening in her life and being too preoccupied with Spider-Man. So yeah, I enjoyed that change in her character. It is weird that that they don't play into that more, right? That she is like almost like her and Peter are swapped in this one, where he's like on top of the world. He's got this new suit. He feels great. He's defeating all these villains like no problem. Now she's like struggling financially. She can't keep a job. She's getting fired from like her dream career. Like it would have been nice to kind of maybe make that a little bit more part of the story in this one, because it's kind of just a way to have them start arguing. So that way it makes sense when Harry forces her to break up with him. Right. And if she was the one that called off the wedding, like on her own terms, I think maybe even that would have fixed it. And then that's when Harry can be like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity now to drive a wedge in between them even further and use this as like a way to get back at Peter emotionally.
And that's what pisses me off too, is Franco Goblin, which is what I call him. He doesn't even I kissed Mary Jane and now I'm gonna choke her and tell her to break up with Peter. Like, just like make her fall in love with you. Like, clearly that's happening. So like I would have liked some more sneaky Harry Osborn,
manipulative,
like yes, and then so she like kisses him and feels bad, confesses to Peter, and they break up, and Franco Goblin is with Mary Jane now, and Peter's sad. Like, no, he just immediately is like, I'll kill Peter if you don't break up with him. And she's like, all right, I guess you're evil. Like, no secrecy, none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were even kind of bubbling the little romance thing too, and they make the omelet together, and then they read the play, and then they kissed. I'm like, ooh, this is happening. Then it was like 180, and it totally switched. I agree. One thing I did laugh at though, with the opening scene when Peter goes to see Mary Jane's Broadway show, and as he's leaving the theater, you hear kind of other people leaving, talking, and one woman leaving, she just says, "Oh, I thought she was good." And I burst out laughing because it was just like, I was like, oh, is she supposed to suck? And then, of course, the reviews came out and she was fired and everything. But I love that little thing, how she approached Peter saying, I was no good, I sucked, I was awful, the reviews were terrible. And Peter says, no, you were fine. And she says, this isn't about you, this is about me. And I thought there was like an underlying theme of ego and alter ego. And that's what that whole, is it called symbiote? That black ink stuff that Venom's made of?
Right, yeah.
That was the whole, it embraces the worst of your ego and kind of brings that to the front. So I thought that was kind of a neat little undergoing thread. I'm not sure if I was analyzing it too much, but I thought that was kind of cool how she was the first to kind of admit it. It wasn't the greatest, and he was, no, you're great. No, this is about me. This is not about you. I love that. I loved kind of that seed that planted a bit for the plot.
Well, yeah, it's like Peter was reverting a little bit to pre-Uncle Ben murder Peter, where he was getting a little bit cocky, right? Which I think was a good theme in the movie. Now, one thing, we can disagree on Mary Jane, we can disagree on Venom, but one thing we could all agree on is emo Peter Parker, the highlight of the movie. Everybody loves emo Peter Parker. Becca,
my favorite
emo Peter Parker. Can I just say one thing? In the midst of this, by the way, most expensive movie ever made at the time of its release.
Yeah, those pumpkin bombs.
Yeah, in the midst of this movie, Sam Raimi just does Sam Raimi, and he's got Tobey Maguire with his hair in his face, and he's strutting down the street, and it's this insane slapstick comical editing with the piano and dancing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, I'm loving it because I'm in the theater in 2008 going, this is crazy. This is insane. And I can't believe they're letting him get away with it. It's since grown kind of like a cult following because of that. But I want to know, Becca, Spider Friend number one, what do you think of emo Peter Parker?
Solid meme, bad part of the movie. Look, when I first saw the movie, I had no idea how I was supposed to feel, because like in the movie, Betty is like, oh, Peter's all hot now, but then in that scene, half the women are like grossed out and half the women are intrigued, and I was like, what's happening here? Like, is this attractive? I mean, I'm not attracted to it, but is it like, I don't know, it'll forever be a fantastic internet meme, and that's all it needs to be, really. Have you seen that little kid do the Peter Parker dance?
So
that's
good.
But I'm going to when we're done this.
Yeah, it's great.
So,
Josh.
No, I don't like it.
You know, I think if it was in a different movie, it would maybe be my favorite part of the movie. I mean, even in this movie, it's almost my favorite part, right? Just because of like the the meta-ness of it. Obviously, it doesn't fit in this movie. It really doesn't. It's so goofy and fun, but it just is so out of place and not in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, if it was like in something that was more of a comedy, maybe like that weird twist would like be fun and easy to laugh at, but I don't think that it's funny in the way that it was intended to be funny.
Oh, but
right?
then why was I laughing so hard?
Right.
I woke up my neighbors, right?
I'm not saying it wasn't funny, but and I think Becca's totally right. They don't make it clear whether people are supposed to be impressed or not with him.
Right.
If he's like getting all in his head and he has a huge ego and he's doing this and everybody's looking at him like, what the hell are you doing? Then it could totally work. But half the time they're looking at him like, what's going on here? And then the other time it's like, whoa, this guy is so freaking cool. What the hell? Where did he come from? And then like in the bar, he's playing the piano and everybody's like cheering for him. And he's like sliding
like,
on the chairs and
jumping
stuff.
Jumping on the tables and stuff. Yeah,
everybody loves it. It's just like, it doesn't know exactly, I think, what it wants to be in that moment, like with the emo Peter. So yeah, it unfortunately doesn't work, for better or for worse. Because I mean, I feel like it's grown into something way bigger.
Sure.
Now, so
Dan, what'd you think of emo Peter Parker?
I liked the campiness of it spoke to me. I thought like I was kind of giggling and I kind of it took me out of the Spider-Man film. It did. And I was kind of like, what is this? And I thought the same thing, like half the girls were like, whoa, check him out. And the other half were kind of like, ew. So I kind of thought, okay, interesting. He's being that guy. But that bar scene with the big dance when Kirsten Dunst is singing and he's grabbing the chair and doing all the crazy tango moves, whatever dance he was doing, I kind of forgot it was a Spider-Man film. And I kind of, I was entertained by it. It was out there, very Sam Raimi, his humor, because he always peppers everything with that campy, crazy slapstick humor. Right. So I gotta say, it took me by surprise. I wasn't fully expecting it, but I liked it simply for what it was. Just like it entertained me. I laughed. I burst out laughing. I'm like, okay, this isn't taking itself too seriously, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was an interesting choice, but to me, it also played into that. This is where it gets a bit confused. That was very campy and goofy, maybe in all the right ways, but then the Venom thing was equally standoutish and weird. So when you put them all together, then string in the basic theme to the film, it was just another thing that was like a speed bump. But I didn't mind it, to be honest. I like when they kind of established he saw himself in the mirror and then he pulled his hair down in his face. I'm like, oh, this is the character. Got it. That's the switch, the little flip down here, the emo flip. And, so I got to say, I did like Peter Parker. It was unusual, but it was also very Sam Raimi, I thought.
Mm-hmm. You know, as we're talking about this film, I have to remind everyone, in Superman 3, Superman also became evil. Remember?
Yes, when he gets drunk.
Yes, and Christopher Reeve had to play evil Superman. We should all remember that. And some of the, and I'm not exaggerating, some of the best acting Christopher Reeve ever did. Like, it was so good. Playing good Superman, or evil Superman versus good Clark Kent, that was great. And
they have a big gigantic fight in an auto wreck yard. Yeah, and then it's like the battle of the egos, and it reminded me a lot of Superman 3 after when he like accidentally hit Mary Jane, and she's like, "Who are you?" And I thought, wow, I actually thought this is Superman 3 right now, totally.
Right, another underrated film. But anyway, we're gonna talk about the rest of the characters in the movie really quickly. We're just gonna kind of do like a round robin here. Let's start with Becca's favorite actor, James Franco. Tell us, what did you think of James Franco as, what do you call him? New Green Goblin, second Green Goblin 2, Franco Goblin?
Not Hobgoblin.
Not Hobgoblin.
He's not the Hobgoblin, we swear.
Yeah. He's never called the Hobgoblin, but in all of his toy merchandise and posters, it's definitely Hobgoblin.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
He's called New Goblin, right? Like in the credits?
Yeah.
Like, just call him Green Goblin 2. That's what he was called. But whatever. My favorite scene in this movie actually has James Franco in it. And it's when he tells Peter that he's the other man.
I thought you were going to say every single.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say every single time he hits his head off of a girder, which is at least 5 times in this movie.
Second favorite scene. No, and then he turns around and Peter's like sad and leaving, and he just smiling eats the pie. That's the best scene in this movie.
But then the
I will not be
waitress-
taking further questions.
But then also remember the waitress. Like, again, another campy joke setup. How's the pie? What is it? No, how does she set it up? Remember
I just watched it.
I don't remember how she sets it up, but it is so over the top. But it's hilarious. It totally works.
And then
right?
there's a bus that drives by, and then he's gone.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
he has a big
Why?
grin.
Even
Right.
the bartender in the back's like,
Right.
he's
Where
like
did
looking
that guy
around
go?
like, where did he go?
No,
Yeah, that was weird.
everything about James Franco, I hate in real life. And in this movie, I absolutely love. I love New Goblin because it's so bad. I love the amnesia. We love an amnesia plot. It's my favorite kind of plot. I love that he, for 25 minutes in this movie, just forgets that he wants to kill Peter and then goes back to remembering he wants to kill Peter. I love that he makes his 95-year-old butler get him snacks. I love that it takes him to get hit in the head like a third time for him to be like, oh, maybe Peter didn't kill my dad. He did say he didn't. And now my butlers say he didn't. So maybe he didn't. I'll sacrifice myself for him. I love every decision he makes in this movie because it's the wrong one. And also every decision he makes in his real life is the wrong one. So good job, James Franco.
Dan,
Watch out, kids.
What'd you think of James Franco in this one?
I'm not the biggest James Franco fan present day either. I just kind of think it's like he always comes off as like douchey. Maybe it's the roles. He's just a really good actor, but I don't know. But this one, it brought me back because I hadn't seen that James Franco in a long time. I have like the frat house James Franco in my head, and I kind of thought, I remember this James Franco very, very briefly, and I like this James Franco. I loved his character. I wish there was more like of New Goblin versus Peter Parker and Spider-Man, because I liked some of those chase scenes. Some of them even reminded me a little bit of the hoverboard chase scene in Back to the Future 1 and 2, a little bit with going over the cars and whatnot. So I liked that. I don't know if it was an intentional nod or not, but I liked his character. I thought it was interesting. I thought the amnesia thing, I thought it was kind of weird that Peter Parker was just like, oh, cool, he's got amnesia. Sweet.
Yeah.
Like, that problem solved. And it's like, dude, your friend has amnesia. And when they finally had that big face off and Peter, the New Goblin throws the little pumpkin bomb at him and Peter kind of catches it, reverts it, and throws it back at him and blows him up. Peter's like, cool. Done. Good. And it's like, that was your friend. And like, you just killed him. Like, you know you didn't kill his dad. He was a confused friend or a bad misconception about you. And you just blew him up. And Peter Parker's like, oh, well, that settles that. He's gone. I thought that was kind of a bit of a plot hole. Like, but yeah. But to be honest, I actually liked James Franco in this. I didn't mind it. I'm not a big James Franco fan, but I was like, oh, yeah, I like him in this. I forgot how much I enjoyed him.
Yeah, I agree. I never thought he was a great actor or even particularly funny, but I think he worked in this film, maybe because of the character he was playing and the way he was kind of back and forth. Yeah. But for some reason, you're right. He seemed to work at every scene, I thought. So yeah, I did like him. Although I didn't understand why they couldn't just give Green Goblin a mask. Like, hey, is he Green Goblin or is he not? Give him a mask.
He has a mask. It's a paintball
It's a ski mask or something, yeah.
On his snowboard.
I don't know why they had to make him like cool supervillain.
Because it was 2008.
You have Venom and like a giant sand monster. Like just give him like a supervillain mask. It did make sense.
Right.
Ugly him up a bit or
he
something.
Had
them.
Yeah, they'd show them. Yeah, Josh, what'd you think
of...
The
worst part about this movie is how James Franco says Bernard, I gotta say.
I don't remember that.
He calls his butler Bernard.
Oh.
And not Bernard. Right. His name is Bernard, and he calls him Bernard.
That is odd.
I don't know why.
Bernard.
No, he's fine. He's very campy. I feel like him and Topher Grace feel like they're in a movie together, being like super campy and like comic book villains, like old style, and everybody else in the movie is like grounded. And even when they have those moments of like camp, they're still like grounded in some sort of reality, where those two just feel like they're in a completely different movie.
Yeah.
So I think his performance was fun at times, but like it felt a little out of place. But
okay. So now, okay,
it also doesn't make any sense, the whole amnesia storyline, because if you took that out of the movie, nothing changes.
That's
like
true.
nothing happens where he like snaps out of it and has a realization or anything. He kisses MJ and then afterwards he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to be evil again, and he remembers everything. And then you know what I mean? And like nothing changes because him and Peter Parker don't do anything together that changes the story. Like we see them once. Right. Walking through the mansion and like having a chat like, oh, glad you're back. No, you don't have any girlfriends. Ha 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 ha. And then that's it. So like, it really feels like a wasted opportunity not to do something with that and have like Peter do something while he's evil to Harry and not the Goblin, right? Like have him somehow betray his friendship, but actually betray it this time. Not like how Harry thinks it was betrayed by like Spider-Man killing his father, but like something on a friendship level being betrayed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, nothing really happens with the amnesia thing. So it's already kind of like a ridiculous thing to happen. And then for nothing to actually like go anywhere with it is like a real bummer, I think. Right.
So we should point out that, as Becca mentioned, how do you pronounce his name? Avi Arad? No.
Avi Arad.
Yeah.
Avi Arad. So he's been involved with Marvel's adaptation since the 90s. I didn't realize he was involved with the Spider-Man cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's the problem. He's what's wrong with it.
Right.
Oh.
Basically, yeah. I don't know how these guys get these jobs, but maybe he was already a billionaire, but somehow he's still there. They can't get rid of him. But as far as we know, the original plan was that Sam Raimi wanted to just have Sandman, and Venom was forced on him. I'm sure that Green Goblin was always part of the story, but Sandman was definitely forced on him. However, just judging Thomas Hayden Church, we've already said a lot about him, but if he had his own movie, I think he would have been perfect. Like, I'm not sure, Becca, are you familiar with him from any other movies? Have you seen it before? Or?
Spider-Man Homecoming, or Spider-Man No Way
Okay,
Home.
so not that.
I saw him in that one. when he also was Sandman.
Okay, wait, Dan, did you see, what was that movie he was in with Paul Giamatti?
Sideways.
That's
one of my favorite movies. Yeah,
absolutely.
Is it the wine movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A long time ago I saw that.
He's such a good actor,
yeah,
right?
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, he is. You're right. I agree, Josh. Perfectly cast for this movie. Unfortunately, he didn't get to develop it further than what we saw. But we've already talked about him. So we've already talked about James Franco. Let's jump to Bryce Dallas Howard, who everyone knows now as the director of certain episodes of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, and Mandalorian.
Yeah. So she's actually a very talented director, as well as an actress.
She's in Jurassic World.
That's right. She's the co-star. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also the daughter of famed director Ron Howard. Right. So she's kind of like Hollywood royalty. I mean,
she was in Twilight.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, she's been around for a long time. She's got a very storied resume, I guess you could say. But I mean, as far as playing Gwen Stacy, I thought she was fine. Dan, what'd you think of Bryce Dallas Howard?
I liked her. I love her. I love my favorite episode of Black Mirror. It features her, the Nosedive episode. I love her in that. I liked her character. I thought she was good. I just kind of thought, I don't know. It almost seemed like maybe it was meant to be a competition. Well, I guess it kind of was a competition between her and Mary Jane. But I kind of thought they could have done more with her story too. It was like something was missing and I don't know what it was. Like I wanted to see more of her, but then it never really panned out. So I liked what I saw of her, but I almost thought she could have had a more central role in the film. And it just, they had too many other things going on to realize her character. And I almost feel that's the same thing that happened with Sandman, that there was too many other things going on, too many other plots happening where they couldn't fully develop his role either. I feel the same thing happened to her. So that I liked what I saw. I wanted to see more. I'm not sure if that movie, there was a way for her to do more. It seems like they would have needed to jiggle up the editing a bit to give her a more prominent role, but it's like her character wasn't what it kind of hinted it could be, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So, but I liked what I saw.
Yeah. We should also say in the comics, Gwen Stacy was introduced first, before Mary Jane, and then Betty Brant was actually introduced before that, I believe.
I think before, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the comics, Peter had dated Liz Allen, then Betty Brant, then Gwen Stacy, then Mary Jane. And so it was kind of this Betty and Veronica type thing for a while, and then Gwen Stacy ended up dying in like the 70s, like 72. So it was kind of like a big deal at the time, but in the movies they kind of do it a little bit backwards. And then if you saw the Amazing Spider-Man with what's his name, Andrew Garfield, I don't know if you saw that, but remember the second movie, Gwen Stacy dies, right? Just like in the comics. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I liked her character, but I just kind of thought, it didn't have the bite that I thought it could have, because I think she's a phenomenal actress, and the character was really interesting too, but just not enough meat to it to really sink in.
Underdeveloped. Does anyone else want to say anything else about Bryce Dallas Howard?
I think she was perfect in the role. I just feel like, there wasn't enough with her character. Like, I didn't have any problems with Bryce Dallas Howard at all. So,
you know what I love? I love when she apologized to Kirsten Dunst or Mary Jane when he kind of did the whole little dance in the bar, and then she realized, this was that for her, and she's like, "I'm so sorry," and she left. I was like, that was an interesting moment for her character. But again, just not enough of that. You know what I mean? Not enough payoff for what it promised. Yeah.
You know, I gotta agree, because I remember that specific moment where even though this is a Hollywood blockbuster, there are great moments of writing where these characters are acting like real people, and they're acting like unique people, not cliched, knee-jerk reactions, right? And you're right. I noticed that moment that she took the moment to apologize to Mary Jane. I thought that was really smart, really good writing.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
So, okay, help me out. Was
Becca is my name.
No. Josh, what is it again? No. Okay, so the Russian
Mr.
landlord,
Ditkovich?
Yeah, what's the girl? Is it the girl's
Ursula.
name?
Ursula.
Was she in Spider-Man 2? I don't remember.
I believe they're both in Spider-Man 2. Yeah, because that's when he moves out. It's all a big blur, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
and we're not going to spend a lot of time, but I thought her character was great in this.
Yeah,
I thought she was hilhilarious. And
she has more screen time and character than Gwen Stacy, probably.
True.
You know,
like what an odd. Like, you almost got to wonder. Sometimes you're watching these movies, and again, Marvel Studios films, love them all you want, but they seem very approved by committee, where like 25 different executives have gone, okay, you know, I approve. Okay, cut that, and all the rough edges are shaved off. This movie, you've got the daughter and the landlord, and these weird moments of like, remember when the landlord says, "Oh, you want to make me feel better? Get me a pizza," and it's just like, and it just like hangs in the air, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is the point of that? It's so weird, but yeah, I really like those characters.
I just wish it was Mandy and Candy and Bambi and whatever their names were. His actual roommates from the comics. When are we going to have them in live action? That'd be fun.
One day,
I'm sure we'll have a Disney Plus show about them.
To direct one of these.
About the 4 random girls that live next to Peter.
Yes, I'll do a Sonyverse spinoff.
But at least it's true to the comics in the sense that Peter's landlords and neighbors are always wacky.
Yes. Yes.
And a cause for like just randomness in his life.
Right.
Yeah. So that's fun. I don't think that the female characters in this film are very well developed. Unfortunately, there's not enough screen time for them because there's too much fighting with the boys. Right?
You can say that.
I was confused by Ursula, is her name, the neighbors, the landlord. I was confused by her too because wasn't she always obsessing like, I think Mary Jane called you. Did Mary Jane call? And I was like, does she have a crush? Is she like wanted to set him up? It was. I love them. I love the landlord character, and I couldn't remember if they were in any of the other ones. They didn't really stand out for me because it's been so long since I've watched those films. But yeah, they were quirky and neat. I liked them. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute. Yeah, definitely. One other character I want to talk about, again, my memory's a blur, even though I rewatched all 3 Sam Raimi films this year, but Dylan Baker as Dr. Curtis Connors, was he in Spider-Man 2? I don't remember. He was.
I think he's been in all 3.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So,
if I'm not mistaken.
Dan, do you know that character goes on to become the Lizard in the comics? Did you know that?
I did not know that. That makes me like him even more.
Right.
I remembered him in all three, and I thought, it was a small little neat supporting role to kind of explain things and whatnot, but loved it. But that's very intriguing that he becomes a villain.
Yes.
Is the Lizard is a villain, I take it?
Yes.
Okay.
He turns into a giant man-eating reptile.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
They used him in Amazing Spider-Man 1, I think?
Yes.
Right, with Andrew Garfield.
He was originally going to be the bad guy in Spider-Man 4 when they announced it. Because they did announce that they were going to make a fourth installment before it was canceled a little after the announcement. But it was supposed to be this build up to the Lizard.
Do we know why it was canceled?
Okay, so I did some research in 2 seconds, and I should point out it was not because of box office returns, because this surprise, this movie made more than Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Wow.
It made more than Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. So it was a box office hit. Obviously, critically, the critics were mixed on this. But I think it was a conflict between Sony and Sam Raimi, where Sam Raimi kind of didn't want to do Spider-Man 4. And I think they took that opportunity to go, okay, you know what? If you don't want to do another Spider-Man, we're just going to reboot. That's as far as I know what happened.
Oh,
I think maybe Tobey Maguire too has always kind of been in and out of the movies, and
my favorite actor,
reportedly awful on set on every movie he's in.
He is?
Yeah,
well,
apparently.
I know nothing about him.
Let's just clarify something. He is one of my favorite actors, but you remember the movie Molly's Game?
Loved it.
Okay, you know the character played by Michael Cera?
Yes, yep.
That is Tobey Maguire. In real life, he's playing Tobey Maguire.
Get out.
Yes. Isn't
really?
that heartbreaking?
Wow.
So apparently he's a big asshole. But,
wow,
and he hadn't been in movies in years, because I think it's a mixture of him not wanting to do it and then nobody wanting to have him in his movies. And then when the new Spider-Man came out, I think it kind of brought him back into the light, and he's been in a movie or two since.
I'll cast you, Toby, anytime. Anyway.
I love him in The Ice Storm.
Oh, he was so good in that. He was great.
Yeah, it was a great film.
He was good in that movie Brothers too. Remember that? Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, that was excellent. I
that
forgot
was
about that
Jake
one.
Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Yeah,
and in fact, another little trivia note, Jake Gyllenhaal was going to take over the role of Spider-Man for Spider-Man 2 because Tobey Maguire injured his back. And so Jake Gyllenhaal was the front runner to replace him. Yeah,
because of not Seabiscuit. What was he in? The horse movie, right? He injured his back on.
Yeah.
It was Seabiscuit? Yeah.
Which I also saw in theaters. Anyway.
Yeah. So as far as I know, if we go back to the canceling of movies and stuff like that, Raimi left the project. He was going to do Spider-Man 4 and then left it because they went through 5 scripts, and he's like, no, absolutely not. And he was like, nah, I'm done. So then they dropped it, and then it didn't get another director until they rebooted it all for Amazing Spider-Man in whatever year that was. But Spider-Man 4 was supposed to have Anne Hathaway as the Black Cat.
Oh, right.
And John Malkovich as Vulture.
Wow. That would have been nice.
So I know that.
The Vulture was supposed to be in this one, in his original version without Venom. It was the Vulture and Sandman. Yeah.
So
which makes a little bit more sense because they're a little bit more B-villain-esque than having
Venom team up with some dude.
Well, it depends how you rate a B villain, because I don't know if you've heard, Dan, but the next movie in the Sony Spider-Verse has been announced, and it's none other than the Hypno Hustler.
The Hypno Hustler. I'm not familiar with this.
Is a real character from the comics, and we are going to forward an image of the Hypno Hustler, so you know what we're talking about. If anyone can get to the Hypno Hustler before I can, I'm trying to get to the chat here, but all of our millions of Spider-Cast listeners know what we're talking about here. But and who's the actor that's playing him again?
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. Which sucks because Donald Glover's amazing, and he should have been the Prowler.
Well, and he is the Prowler. He's already Aaron Davis in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he should have just continued in that role. Hopefully this isn't like, hopefully it has nothing to do with Spider-Man and they're just like taking a random villain and making a random movie or something with it. And this has nothing to do with anything. But
Sony should stop doing that. It's not working.
First I have to ask Dan, did you see the image yet of Hypno Hustler?
Yeah, is he like a rock and roller or what? It looks like Sly Stone.
Yeah, I think, like a sort of a disco rock.
The images I'm seeing, the glasses and like the hair and the guitar. Yeah, the mic.
I love
looks like it's interesting. I'm curious to know how that'll translate into on the big screen. I guess Donald Glover could do it. But
so the interesting thing is that Sony apparently has the rights to every character that ever appeared in a Spider-Man comic.
Or like originated from Spider-Man.
Yeah. So debuted. So they're going to make movies, like they've already done Morbius. They're going to do Craven.
Yeah, that's going to be out next year.
Sounding so good.
The obvious third choice is Hypno Hustler. And
right.
They're just going to
What do you think of Spider-Man villains?
Everyone thinks of
Morbius.
What? They're doing that movie with Bad Bunny. Who's he playing?
What? I don't know.
Remember that rapper? He's in a movie.
I don't know.
Is it a Spider-Man one?
Yeah.
Okay, but as you're researching that, Dan, I have to ask you, I think besides talking about Z-list villains here, we're going to wrap up this discussion by comparing these Sam Raimi films. Now, I know you only rewatched Spider-Man 3, but compared to the current Marvel Studios films, where do you rate, not just Spider-Man 3, but the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films?
I really enjoy them quite a bit. Like for my big beef with the newer films is too much CGI. And this had its fair share of CGI too.
This had no CGI.
Yeah, this one was so Indian. So I know, but this one was very, very a lot of CGI. But for some reason, I was worried that it wouldn't date well, thinking the technology was a bit newer back then, whenever this was made, 2007 or 2008. And I thought, this is going to be like, is this just going to be a bunch of computer-generated shapes flying around? And it was, but I thought it was pretty well done. And I really, really liked it. I actually connected with this story. 2 hours and 20 minutes, I will not lie, I rolled my eyes when I hit play thinking, oh boy, is this going to be a movie or is it going to be an endurance test? But I was actually sucked in. Like, I really did enjoy it. And for what it was, I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. The 2 hours and 20 minutes flew by for me. I preferred it much more than I thought I would, and I prefer it much more than the newer Marvel films today. I got to admit that, and that's something that shocked me how much I enjoyed it. Well, yeah, it really did.
One of our pals, Kyle Van Doom, agrees with you, and so do I. Especially, like you said, just the scenes of talking, not the CGI, but Peter and Mary Jane's relationship, the scenes of them just sitting and talking. You do see moments of that in current Marvel Studios films, but not to the extent, not to the length and the depth that you see in this film.
Right.
And I agree with you. That made this film stand up better than I think most current Marvel Studios films would.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Right. Josh, how do you compare, now that we've re-reviewed all of the Tobey films, what do you think? How do you compare them?
It's really strange. It's almost like the MCU now has become more of like events. You know what I mean? Like they're big interconnecting episodes in this large story. So they feel like movies, but also at the same time, like it feels like a chapter in a big story.
Right.
These really do, even though they kind of have like a flow into like 1, 2 to 3. They feel like just movies. They feel like films on their own.
Right.
So yeah, it's strange comparing them, I think, for me, because they feel like just completely different things almost. But it's always super fun watching them. They have a special place in my heart. I grew up watching these movies. I remember going to go see this movie with my best friend, and I had my parents drive us there, and we were in the back of the minivan talking about it the whole time, like so pumped about it. We get there, and I remember like coming out of the theater and being like, this was good, right? And he was like, yeah, I think so. Like we were so unsure about it at the time. It was like right at the time where I was starting to like think about what I was watching. So
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I love these movies. I had fun revisiting it. Is it a great movie? Not really, but it's definitely something I'm going to be rewatching, a few more times, I'm sure.
Right. Okay, Bex Luthor. Where do you rate this compared to Marvel Studios films?
See, it's hard for me because I think I'm coming into this from a way different perspective. Because, like, I was a huge comic book fan and then went to see these movies, and that was fine for me. But as a kid, the characters that I loved never got movies, and still kind of don't. So I like the new Marvel stuff better, just because there's girls in them. It feels so like, totally. Oh, of course she's so woke, blah blah blah. But it's just like the last Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That movie made me feel way more emotional than Spider-Man 3 will ever make me feel, just because it was so heavily revolving around sisterhood and motherhood and just very, very not feminine, but like women focused. I don't know. I like the new stuff because I'm seeing myself and I'm seeing all of my friends who I grew up reading comic book books with actually seeing them get to be superheroes now. So for me, that's more important.
Than being good.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, because as we all know, Mike thinks that if a woman's in a movie, it means it's gonna be bad.
Right. Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that. Anyway,
I found as a kid, I probably would have said that Spider-Man 3 was my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Really? Okay.
Because Venom was in it.
Okay.
And then now as an adult, my favorite Spider-Man character is Zendaya's Mary Jane. Like,
she's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have different wants in my superhero movies now. I don't know how to word it. It's just like this movie's so straight, Mike. God damn it.
Did you see the dancing scene? I don't know. Anyway, dude, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
These movies but here's the thing.
No, you're right.
Comic books are so gay, and all of the early 2000s comic movies are so hetero, and my
you're
poor
totally
little
right.
gay
You're totally
head.
right. But isn't that almost all Hollywood movies at that time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the world's definitely changed.
Yeah, it's not Spider-Man, or Sam Raimi, it's everything, right?
And I think for the most part, it's for the better.
But
I think
comic books have always been really gay.
Yes.
Yeah,
I need to get into comic books. What have I been missing?
There's a whole world out there, Dan. We'll introduce you to it.
I know. What the heck? I missed out on my channel. I was watching Madonna videos thinking that's where it was at.
Yeah.
We got Dazzler comics for you, my boy.
There you go.
Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Cyclops are in a throuple now. It's great.
Yes, they are.
What? Are you kidding?
Yeah?
No.
Is that real? For real? Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty great.
One of the Robins is bisexual.
Oh, well,
so that's
that
cool.
one does not come to a surprise. That's not a surprise.
It's not the Robin you think.
Yeah,
it's the third one.
Not the Tidy Whities one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Superman's son is gay now, so that's really cool.
That's very cool.
It's a whole crazy world now.
The whole nother world.
Yeah, I think what's great too is we're seeing different people being able to come in and write for these characters and create new characters. So we're having Muslim women coming in and writing for Muslim women characters, having gay writers, artists, things like that. So it feels also very genuine and great to read because we know that it's coming from like a real place and not like a studio being like, okay, we're going to do these things to like appease this. It feels just so natural.
Agreed. Yeah. Yes. Things are much better in many ways now. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And maybe the movies aren't as good as they used to be, but they are definitely like more people are able to create them now, I think. And so with that comes there's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
There's great Marvel movies and there's not so great Marvel movies. There's there's okay DC movies and bad DC movies. Like there's like a whole spectrum.
Spectrum. There you go. So Dan, just to remind everybody, where can we hear you, listen to you, find you? AM 800?
Yeah. AM 800, I am on every weekday, 9 to noon, doing some local talk radio, and it's a call-in show too, so people are always welcome to call in, text in, and be a part of the conversation.
So obviously this episode will not air for another 2 or 3 weeks, so it's hard to predict what's going to be coming up on your show, 15 episodes from now. But assuming we're talking about January... is there anything big coming up that you can talk about, or is it kind of just every day it changes? You don't really know.
Oh, every day we just talk about like what's going on in the news, or dilemmas and whatnot. But yeah, we talk about fun stuff too, like this. I would love to have this podcast on the air one day, actually, just to talk about it and whatnot.
That would be great.
That'd be great.
We can't do live, man. That's not safe.
Do I need to have my finger on the delay button?
Yeah, there you go.
Like 30 seconds minimum for me, please. I'm on my best behavior right now, and I've already scored like 5 times. So.
I love it.
We'll figure something out though, Dan, definitely. But we want to thank you for joining us. This has been a pleasure. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'm so glad it worked out for everyone's schedule. Unfortunately, G.I. Jolie couldn't be with us tonight, but if we ever have on you again, we'd love to have G.I. Jolie with us. So that'd be awesome. We'd love to come on your show. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, surely the week it's coming out. If you want to come on to talk it up, you're more than welcome. Yeah,
we would love that.
I will delay myself, honestly.
Yes.
I'll hire somebody to put their hand over my mouth before I talk.
That'd be great.
But truly, this is a lot of fun, and the movie, it made me want to go back and watch part 1 and 2 again, and I do want to watch the new Black Panther film as well. That's on my list, because I did enjoy Black Panther so much, and I know it's changed so much with the new one, and I'm hearing amazing things, so that's going to get me back into it too. But no, really, thanks for having me. I hope I'm not really a comic book guy, but I'm a movie guy, so I really do appreciate it. I hope I didn't dumb it down at all with my perspective.
No, not at all.
But I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's impossible.
It was fun nerding out with you guys. Truly, it really was. So thanks for having me.
We're going to be starting a couple of podcasts too in the new year, so we'll keep in touch and have you on for those too. So.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We should make Dan read comics.
We will. Yes, that's our goal.
Yeah,
there you go.
For sure.
So we want to thank Bex Luther for joining us. As always.
Sorry, I made it political again.
No problem. It's all good. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Please leave us a review over on Facebook or on our YouTube channel at the Comic Book Syndicate. Please let us know what you guys think about the podcast and the things that we're talking about on the podcast. We want to keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. Until next Monday, Spider Friends.